that is 5 years ago, I used to go to a friend's house and I used to be able to connect to somebody's wireless access point with no problems. And that's not as easily
Right.
done anymore. So, in my perception, it seems like, maybe it's getting better. But, with you being a security evangelist, what's your perception on that?
Right. I definitely think the amount of awareness has increased, but not to an extent where I would really say that, Wi-Fi network installations are secure overall, or a large percentage is secure. Uh, Even now, even when I speak to enterprises or do trainings there, what I find is most enterprises still do not understand wireless security very well. So, to give you a very simple example, a lot of enterprises think that if they do not have a Wi-Fi installation, they don't need to worry about wireless security. What they forget is every single client now has Wi-Fi chips in it, and pretty much everybody has their Wi-Fi enabled all the time, which means client-side attacks on your mobile phones, on your laptops can happen, even though your enterprise might not provide wireless. Second, rogue APs and things like that, where anyone could just bring in a pocket AP and connect it to your network and create a backdoor, is also something a no Wi-Fi policy enterprise could fall prey to. Now, moving ahead from that, even enterprises who have Wi-Fi deployments unfortunately do not have probably the right setup in place. And what I mean by that is, probably using something like EAP TLS with both client server side certificates and, a good PKI infrastructure along with the radius server and all of that hardened. I've rarely seen, and I really would like to emphasize on the word rare, you know, uh, generally, people think having WPA enterprise is end of worry, but in reality, that's just the very first line of defense. Honestly, if you're only relying on encryption to provide security for your wireless network, probably you're already hacked.
Hmm. Wow.
And yeah, and I think home users is exactly the same. I'll give you an example in India. Uh, yes, if you look at majority of installations, you'll see people use WPA2 PSK. But here is the problem. Most of these home Wi-Fi routers, when the ISP guys come and install it, they end up configuring a default passphrase, which unless the customer explicitly tells them to change, they do not change. So I could pretty much just walk around. It's not that I do. uh, I could just walk around, pick up any encrypted network and try and see if it uses default passwords. And a majority of them end up doing it.
Right. Wow. Wow. Yeah, real interesting. And I,
Yeah.
I guess the Wi-Fi thing kind of brings us to your book, Backtrack 5 Wireless Penetration Testing. And as a person who's an educator and is currently still in school, most of the things that I do deal in the world of theory. So when
Right.
I picked up this book and I saw all these pictures, I was like, wow, this is great. Because I had the laptop to the right and the book to the left, and I was actually, doing a lot of these examples. So if you can, kind of tell us about the Backtrack 5 Wireless Penetration Testing book that you wrote, what inspired you to write the book, and how did you get with the publishing company to put this out there?
Right. Right. So interestingly, this I never really ever thought about writing a book because honestly, I thought it would have been a lot of work, and at the very same time, I had no clue how to begin or even where to start looking at things. So what happened is I had created these free videos on wireless, which I had put on securitytube.net, and I think one of the acquisition editors in Pact Publishing, based in the UK, was probably searching online to probably find anyone who's good at Wi-Fi security to write a book, and that's how they chanced upon my video, probably saw it, and then contacted me and said, "Hey, would you like to write a book?" And in the beginning, I was a bit apprehensive because honestly, I knew that my strong point is like absolutely pure practical demos from the beginning. I hate uh, books which have too much of theory in it. They are valuable and they have their place, but beyond a point, I think too much theory uh, is is probably going to go ahead and demotivate a lot of people initially entering a subject. So I thought whether it was feasible to write something which would be totally practical and very less on theory. And at the very same time, Wi-Fi security, has been out there, and there are a lot of good books out there by Joshua Wright and other people, addressing the theory in very detail. So I thought, definitely I couldn't probably write something better, because I really think those books are great. So I told PAC that, hey, why don't we do something which is entirely practical? And they agreed, because pretty much that's how they like it. I knew the book would polarize people, because when I showed my wife the initial draft of the book, she said, is this a book or is this a lab manual? So, because I think people are accustomed to seeing a lot of theory in there and probably just a bunch of diagrams from time to time. And not screenshots. And if you look at it, I knew the book would polarize, because even if you look at the Amazon reviews, I mean, right now the reviews are good. I think I have a 4.5-star rating with 40 reviews. But people who probably didn't like it because they were like, there's just too many screenshots in there. But overall, the book, I think, has done fantastically well. PACT tells me that, we've sold over 10,000 copies worldwide.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, over the last 2 years. And I have just begun working on edition 2 of the book, which should be out by around April of next year.
Oh, congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you very much. The only thing which I would probably advise people who ever thought about writing a book is just do it. Book writing is not as difficult as it sounds. I think if you worked in a topic long enough, you can pretty much write a book on it.
Yeah.
And I think people overestimate the effort and overestimate the fact that, hey, man, I don't think probably I'm qualified to write a book on this. Honestly, I think a book is just a perspective of an author on a topic. Nobody tries to write a book as an authoritative book on the subject. So, yeah, I mean, pretty much that was it. The book did take me around 4 to 6 months to write part-time. And honestly, though, PACT might hate knowing this. Pretty much if the deadline was Monday, Saturday and Sunday used to be when I used to write the book. So
yeah. I had asked a gentleman, his name is Raphael Mudge. He created Armitage.
Yeah, I know Raphael very well.
Right.
Okay.
And I had asked him a question. I was like, with the tool and the information that you're putting out, and that was my feeling, is that when I did the man in the middle practical implementation that you had in your book, I was like, wow, right, this is so easy. I could go to a coffee shop and, just do something crazy. I was like, how do you feel knowing that maybe 1 out of 10 people that look at this book is probably doing something that they shouldn't be doing? And it's like, how do you, work with that?
Right. See, I mean, it's a very good question, and I think the ethical dilemma of misuse of information you provide is always a big one. I'll give you examples on Facebook. I was contacted by a couple of students here and there who said, I learned this, and I've hacked my school networks and they've called the police and stuff like that. Is there anything you can do to help me and all? Yeah. I mean, I really feel troubled when I get such messages, simply because the intention was never so. Unfortunately, given the field we are in, any knowledge can have dual purposes. I mean, and the best example right now is, the whole Prism incident and all of that, where network monitoring can be used for the good of a network to protect you against hackers, and probably can also be used to spy on a whole country, right? So I really think it's a very thin line. And as much as we may want that our book or any knowledge which we put out is only used in a very ethical, responsible way, I don't think it is ever going to happen. So that is really something we have to live with. That and just hope that this does not do as much damage as it should, right, as it might end up doing. If used in the wrong way.
Yeah. It's that thin line of hoping that it's being used for the right,
Yes.
but you have no control once you put it out there.
Yes, because honestly, Charles, I've seen a lot of presentations and places where people put up slide one that only for academic. If you want to use for any other purpose, stop viewing this immediately.
Exactly.
And honestly, someone who's hell bent on using it for bad purposes, do you think he's going to stop on the slide one?
He's already on slide 2 and 3.
Exactly. So I think slide one is really us trying to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put it out there, and I don't care what happens with the knowledge, right?
Right.
So that's really what that disclaimer slide is all about. So uh, yes, I mean disclaimer just ensures that the intent of the author is conveyed, but people would use it. I mean, honestly, I think given everything is going online, everything is centralized, and the bad guys and the malicious guys are also going ahead and trying to use this information to break into banks and government installations and whatnot. I think the situation is just going to get worse.
Yeah.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a very funny example. One of my wife's friends got their Facebook account hacked, and she pretty much called me and pestered me to supposedly hack it back for her. You know, and she's like, "But this is what you do." I said, "No, I mean, I work in security." And she's like, "Yeah, why don't you just hack it back? I'll pay you for it." So I said, doing that is illegal, and I think that's where people don't understand that there's a very thin line between legality and doing something illegal in this field.
Yeah. And most people, like my mom, if like something goes wrong with the toaster, she's like, "Well, you work with computers, you should be able to fix the toaster." And I'm like, "It doesn't work like that."
And I mean, and you're absolutely right. And a lot of times I've seen people end up doing a lot of wrong things, and trying to justify it, saying, we were doing this because we were just curious if this would happen.
Right.
Uh, but unfortunately, one needs to understand that it's as simple as, if someone breaks into your house and then basically tells you that, hey, I proved to you that your door was breakable, right? Would you appreciate it?
Wow. Yeah. Yes and no, but probably more no.
Yeah. So I mean, and this is where I think, I mean, I personally always take a neutral stand at times when companies lash back and say, hey, we never requested you to audit. And I know a lot of people would be like, hey, Vivek, no, 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 but I really think it's a very thin line, because honestly, if you look at all these guys who make duplicate keys and stuff like that, he could probably come to your door, and when you've lost your keys, he could open your door in like half a minute,
Yes.
right? Now, imagine that guy walking around in your neighborhood every single day, opening doors and walking in and saying, "Hey guys, I was able to open your door, which means you're vulnerable. Uh, do something about it." How would you react when you saw someone like that?
Not very happy.
So I think when a lot of youngsters end up translating that to the online world, what they think is it's okay because we did not do any damage. But there are cases where maybe he didn't do any damage and someone else managed to use the same loophole, did some damage, and the company is confused as to who really did the wrong thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yes, and I know a lot of people would probably hate me for taking a neutral stand rather than a total stand that yes, we should demonstrate. Just demonstrate, but demonstrate responsibly. And I think that's where responsible disclosure and all that has been there. And I think a vast majority of researchers are responsibly going ahead and divulging security threats. But yes, there are some people who do not, and which at times does cause a misconception about the industry, at large.
Yeah. So tell me, what's next for Vivek and SecurityTube.net? What's next for you and your idea, and where would you like to go, and so forth?
Right. So, the good news, I think, for Security Tube viewers or anybody who's, using our work is that I think I'm pretty much invested into this for a lifetime, because I don't see myself doing anything else apart from what I do because I enjoy it. Uh, so I think we are probably going to be a long-term player in the information security training field. And to an extent, what we are trying to do is the next big thing for security tube is try to subsidize